Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of JavaScript for Beginners Walkthrough. Tonight, we will be going over FreeCodeCamp and picking up where we left off, chaining if-else statements. So, if-else statements can be chained together for complex logic, and here is the pseudocode of multiple changed if-else if statements. Pseudocode is just a word of saying we're going to combine English with some code and make something a little in between. So right here, obviously, it's not condition 1, but they're just putting in words to buff it up in the meantime. So now, it wants us to copy this and do it over here. So we have if, else if, else if, else. And remember, if is like going about, and then else is like, hey, I want to hang out with you, and then else if, hey, I want to hang out with you, and then else is like, you know what, if ain't really that it. So gets rid of if, realizes if is not a real friend, and boom. So else moves on. So it says write chained if else if statements to fulfill the following conditions. So num is less than 5, return tiny. Now realistically, we can do this right here, starting with the if. So remember, it is parentheses, not brackets. So we're going to put in num less than 5, and then we want our curly braces where we are going to return tiny. Remember, the semicolon is optional. I like it because that's what I'm used to as a computer scientist, but everyone can do as they wish. So for this next one, we want to follow the pattern. So we're going to put else if right here. We're going to do num is less than 10. And pretty similar, we got to do the return and put in small. So we're going to quicken this up real quick. So for this last one, you'll notice that I actually did not write num is greater than or equal to 20 because look right here. If it's all of these other ones, then what's left? Greater than or equal to 20. So if we test it, boom. So far, so good. So we're going to do golf code. So in the game of golf, each hole has a par, meaning the average number of strokes a golfer is expected to make in order to sink that ball in the hole to complete the play. Depending on how far above or below par your strokes are, there is a different nickname. Your function will be pass par and strokes argument, return the correct string according to this table, which lists the strokes in order of priority. Top highest, bottom lowest. So top, you really want a hole in one. If you have greater than or equal to, just go home. So it wants us to, will always be numeric and positive. We have added an array of all the names for your convenience. So now, where do we want to go with this? Well, it's talking about putting together if and else statements. Now, I'll give you a little hint. We have our function, golf score. We have our par, and we have our strokes. We can either call this by the index by 0, or we can do it where we just return the string. Returning string is super easy, and calling it is also super easy. So we can have those two potentialities. So it says we want to check all these conditions. So we're going to do an if statement because we're working with ifs. It says if. Now we're going to go strokes because that's what we're comparing it to. Strokes to par. We want to see, okay, if our strokes match up with how much the par is, depending on if it's less, equal to, we're going to check on that. So if strokes is equal to 1, which is not a par. It's just equal to 1. You just did one hit with that golf club. Guess what? We're going to return the moneymaker right here. Boom. And then normally we try to tab this, so looks a little nicer. We're going to do else if. Now we have if strokes are less than or equal to par minus 2. And if that's the case, we're going to return birdie. Eagle. And then we're going to do another one. Strokes. Par minus 1. You can literally just copy and paste. You don't even have to do any of that other stuff. So I'm just going to quicken this up real quick. So strokes 1 equals hole in 1. Strokes equal 1, hole in 1. If the strokes is less than or equal to par minus 2, that's considered an eagle. If it's equal to par minus 1, that's considered a birdie. If it's strokes equals par, it's considered a par. If strokes is equal to par plus 1, that's a bogey. Strokes equal, par plus 2, double bogey. Else, just go home. So, I feel like if-else statements are pretty obvious on what you should do. Once you got the general pattern down, it's pretty easy. You just kind of repeat. The next one, though, is great. If there are so many if-else statements, it becomes so redundant, it's no longer neat. You can do switch statements, which gets rid of all these curly brackets. You can focus more on the meat in the middle. So if you have many options to choose from, use a switch statement. It tests a value and can have many case statements which define various possible values. Statements are executed from the first matched case value until a break is encountered. So, right here we got the switch. So instead of an if-else, we do switch, and then we put in the value we want to compare. So for this one, we're going to write switch. What's the value that we're going to be looking at? Val. And then our case numbers. So it says cases are tested with strict equality. The break tells JavaScript to stop executing statements. So if there was no break, then right here, if there's no break right here, it would execute A and B potentially. But if there's a break, it means, hey, pick one or the other. Which one is it? So it says write a switch statement which tests val and sets answer for the following conditions: 1 alpha, 2 beta, 3 gamma, 4 delta. So we're just going to quicken this up real quick. Alright, so we did case 1. And see, this is representing the case as a string A. But now we can also represent the case as a number value. Does not break it. And then when you do return alpha, we're saying, hey, return this string if it matches the case. Boom. Look at that. So adding a default option in switch statements. So in a switch statement, you may not be able to specify all possible values as case statements. Instead, you can add the default statement, which will be executed if no matching case statements are found. Think of it like the final else statement. So if none of this works, we throw in the default, and then that's what it's like. Okay, none of these match, let's just do the default. Let's go with the default. Let's quicken this up a little bit. So here we have our switch that identifies, hey, we're not working with if else, we're going to work with switch because it's cleaner. We're going to take the value from this function and put it in here, the function switch of stuff, and let answer equal an empty string. So then case A, B, C, we got return apple, return bird, return cat, return stuff. So if someone puts in here a value of A, we're going to return apple. If they put in a value of B, we're going to return bird. If they put in a value of C, we're going to return cat. If none of them work and the value is something else, we're just going to return stuff. Let's see if it worked. Boom. Right on the money. So now, just like I said, if there is no break statement, it will execute all of these. So if you do want them to execute all of them, then you can just go down here and write 1 for all 3. And then if you just want it to execute for 1, just write the result for 1 of them. We're going to quicken this up a little bit. So as you can see, it wants write a switch statement to set answer for the following ranges: 1 to 3 low, 4 to 6 mid, 7 to 9 high. 1 to 3 low, 4 to 6 mid, 7 to 9 high. Each one has a break because we want them to choose, but all 3 of these are potential cases. So let's say they put a 1, 2, 3, a 1 low, 2 low, 3 low, but it has to be one of these. Put a 4, a 5, or a 6 mid, 7, 8, or 9 high. And then also this is a return answer. So once it reaches that break, regardless, it will break out of the switch and it will go down to return answer. That's pretty much what we're going to do for tonight. Pretty tired, but we will pick off at returning Boolean values from functions. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Enjoy yourselves. Good night, everybody. See you later.